My name is Brian. I'm 50, and I live in Spokane, Washington. Or I used to. Depends how you define live. For 9 years I wore that address like a skin. Shared a house with Emily and her 2 kids, Lucas and Sky. I worked, I paid, I kept things moving. Not once did I ask to be their father. I just showed up when the real one didn't. Lucas is 22 now. Sky's 20. I met them when they were barely out of elementary school. Lucas used to sit cross-legged on the floor playing Xbox, oblivious to everything but pixels. Sky used to tug at my sleeve when she wanted juice. Those kids grew up in front of me. I taught Lucas how to change a tire. I sat through Sky's school plays even when I had deadlines chewing through my spine. I paid for braces, textbooks, spring breaks, birthday cakes. Quietly, consistently. I didn't do it for credit. I did it because that's what men like me do. We carry the load so others can walk light. But somewhere along the way that load became invisible. Thanksgiving. That's when the knife landed. The house smelled like cinnamon and stuffing. I had been up since 6 a.m. prepping the turkey. Emily was flitting in and out of the kitchen with her wine glass, smiling like a hostess instead of a wife. Lucas wandered down at noon, Sky 15 minutes later, both in pajamas, scrolling on their phones, barely acknowledging the smell of real food, the sight of a table set with care. We sat down. I said grace, even though I wasn't sure I believed in anything anymore. And just as I lifted my fork, Lucas leaned back in his chair, gave that smug smirk he's perfected over the years, and said, "You're not family. You're just in the house." The words didn't land like a slap. They landed like truth. The kind that had been circling the room for years and finally found a voice. Sky snorted, trying to stifle a laugh. Emily didn't say a damn thing. Nothing. That was the part that broke me. Not the comment. Not the smirk. Not the cruel echo from his sister. It was Emily's silence. 9 years of my labor, my loyalty, my presence. And when it came time to speak, she chose stillness. Chose the comfort of avoiding conflict over the man who funded her peace. I didn't argue. I didn't scold. I didn't even finish chewing. I placed my fork down, wiped my mouth, and stood. Lucas looked confused for half a second, then amused. Sky glanced at Emily. Emily sipped her wine. I walked to the mudroom, grabbed my coat, keys, and laptop. I didn't pack. I didn't slam a door. I just left. I took the car, the newer one, the one I'd paid off last spring. I drove to a cafe with decent Wi-Fi and opened my laptop. My fingers didn't hesitate. First, I logged into the utility accounts: power, water, gas. Canceled autopay. Changed the login credentials. Then the grocery account. Gone. Their digital pantry emptied with one click. I removed my name from the Costco card, the Amazon Prime, the shared Netflix and Spotify. Let them feel the silence even in their music. Then the financial arteries. The credit cards. Sky had one under my account. Lucas too. Both were gone in 60 seconds. I closed the gas card Sky used every week. Cut off the Visa Lucas used for takeout and Uber rides. Then the phone plan. 3 lines besides mine. I removed them all. The next billing cycle would shut them down. By the time I finished, I'd turned their castle into a cave. All without raising my voice. That night, I checked into a quiet motel just off Division Street. It smelled like bleach and old cigarettes. I didn't care. I needed silence, not comfort. The next morning, I transferred every cent of my half from our joint savings account. It wasn't an act of malice. It was math. I had built that balance brick by brick. Overtime, side gigs, skipped vacations. That money was mine. I left her half untouched, even though the numbers were never balanced. Then I printed the spreadsheet. Every dollar I'd spent in the past year. Mortgage? $18,720. Groceries? $9,340. Utilities, insurance, tuition, car repairs, vacations, emergency funds. $82,419 total. $82,000. I wasn't a man. I was an invisible ATM. 2 days later, I found a furnished room in Airway Heights. Small, clean, quiet. The landlord was a retired carpenter. Didn't ask questions. Just handed me the key and said, "You look like a man who needs stillness." He was right. That night I texted Emily. "I'll keep paying the mortgage, the property taxes, and the home insurance, what I'm legally obligated to. Everything else? That's on you now." No threats. No cruelty. Just a line in the sand. On day 3, I got a Venmo request from Sky. $45 for a prescription. I denied it. Added a note. "Ask your mother." Lucas texted a question. "Did the phone plan change?" I didn't respond. Emily called once. I let it ring. By day 4, they realized cereal doesn't heat itself. That gas tanks don't fill out of love. That electricity requires more than wishful thinking. I didn't do this to punish them. I did it because I finally accepted reality. I wasn't part of the family. I was the hired help. Unpaid, unthanked, unmissed. So I stopped working, stopped explaining, stopped existing where I was treated like background noise. They called me heartless, cold, disconnected. But the truth is, I was all out of connection. Every cord had been frayed by years of entitlement and erasure. And when Lucas said those words, he didn't just declare his feelings. He freed me from the illusion I was still building something. He told me I wasn't family. Emily confirmed it with her silence. And so I chose to believe them. Now, let's see what they build without me. Day 4. That's when the first crack showed. Not in me. I was fine. Breathing clearer than I had in years. Sleeping in a room where no one rolled their eyes at me for clearing my throat. Where no one asked me why the fridge didn't magically refill itself. The crack showed in Sky. She tried to pay for a prescription, the same $45 she'd Venmo'd me for. Card declined. Twice. The pharmacy clerk offered her a pitying look. She texted me again. "Please, it's urgent." I didn't reply. 10 minutes later, she texted Emily. 2 hours after that, Emily sent a single question. "Can we talk?" I didn't respond. That night, the power at the house went out. Emily had never re-enabled the autodraft on the electric bill. For a woman who couldn't bother to speak up at a dinner table, she had no problem calling at 11:34 p.m. I let it go to voicemail. Her message, a trembling voice. "Brian, what are you doing? The power's off. The kids are scared. This is going too far." Too far. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "Let's talk about what Lucas said." Just concern for comfort. Not correction. Not accountability. I played the voicemail 3 times. Not out of cruelty. Out of analysis. I was still trying to decode how a woman I'd trusted for nearly a decade had grown so fluent in erasure. Day 5. Lucas called me. I answered. He didn't yell. Didn't posture. He just said, "My car insurance lapsed. I got pulled over. The cop let me go with a warning. Why'd you shut it off?" I kept my voice even. Because I'm no longer funding the lifestyle of people who say I'm not family. Silence. "Come on," he muttered. "It was just a joke." "No, it wasn't," I replied. "It was a thesis. A truth wrapped in a smirk. And I took it at face value." Click. He hung up. The next day, I got a notification. Emily had reapplied for the joint credit card. Denied. She tried to reinstate the grocery delivery account. Password changed. Recovery phone number now routed to mine. She was scrambling. Not for me, not to apologize, but to find new scaffolding. That's all I had ever been. A structure for her comfort. The following Monday, I drove by the house. Not to gloat. I just wanted to see it from the outside. The lawn hadn't been mowed. The trash bins were still on the curb. The porch light was out. Sky sat on the front step, her knees pulled to her chest. No phone in her hand. No earbuds. Just stillness. The same kind I had once craved. I didn't stop. I drove past. The sound of my tires on the pavement felt louder than it should have. Almost like a punctuation mark. By the second week, the ripple effects were real. Lucas sold his drone. Then his Xbox. Then his guitar, the one I'd bought him when he said he wanted to write songs. Sky picked up 2 part-time jobs, one at the campus bookstore, one at a frozen yogurt place. Emily applied for a dental assistant position at a local clinic. She hadn't worked in nearly 4 years. I know because I was the one who told her she didn't have to. I stopped checking bank balances, stopped reading the shared family calendar, turned off email alerts tied to the house. Not out of spite. I simply stopped performing free labor for people who wouldn't acknowledge it. One night, I got a text from Emily. I never realized how much you handled. I stared at the screen for a full minute before deleting it. No reply, no acknowledgement. You don't get to whisper admissions when the roof you took for granted starts leaking. By week 3, I'd developed routines. Wake up early. Brew my own coffee. No one telling me to make a run for oat milk or that the creamer was gone again. I read. I walked. I ate exactly what I wanted, and if I didn't want dinner, no one sighed like I'd violated the script. It wasn't joy. Not yet. But it was absence of tension. And that's its own kind of peace. Lucas texted again. Do you seriously expect me to just pay for school myself? I replied. I didn't expect anything. That was my mistake. No response. I know what they were feeling. The world had cracked under their feet. For years they thought safety was default, that food showed up, that bills got paid, that rooms stayed warm and the car always had gas. They believed the machine ran on its own. They never saw the man behind the gears. So now they were learning. Slowly. Grudgingly. Through hours spent behind counters and in back offices. Through skipped meals and awkward bus rides. Emily sent a message a few days later. The kids are struggling. I don't know what to do. I didn't reply. She did know what to do. She could have said something when Lucas mocked me. She could have corrected Sky when she laughed at her brother's words. She could have said, "He's the one who makes this possible." But she didn't. And now the scaffolding had stepped away, and the weight was crushing her. They thought I'd cave. That my silence was temporary. That I was sulking. But I wasn't sulking. I was healing. The truth is, you can only be the silent provider for so long before silence becomes a cage. And the only way out is to let the silence echo back on the people who built it. I rented a storage unit. Started moving my things out of the house, piece by piece. Emily didn't object. She just watched. Eyes hollow. Voice flat. No more wine glass in hand. No more performative smiles. I took what was mine. The tools in the garage. My books. My watch collection. The painting her mother gave us that I never liked, but that I paid to have framed. I left the rest. Not as a gesture. Just as a statement. I'm done furnishing your comfort. One evening, while loading up the truck, Sky walked outside. She didn't say a word. Just stood near the curb, arms crossed. I felt her watching me. I didn't look up. Finally, she asked, "Are you just going to keep pretending we're not your family?" I set a box down, turned, met her eyes. "No," I said. "I'm just finally acting like I heard you." She didn't reply, just stood there, then turned and walked back inside. There's no satisfaction in that. Just confirmation. This wasn't a game anymore. This was realignment. I've spoken to a lawyer. Not to divorce Emily. Not yet. Just to understand what I am, and what I'm not legally on the hook for. The lawyer said something that stuck with me. You can't keep giving to people who only remember you when they're hungry. Exactly. I had been the heat, the light, the internet, the rides, the tuition, the quiet strength under every day they lived. But the moment I stopped, they called it cruelty. They called it abandonment. They called it cold. But it wasn't cold. It was clarity. So I ask you, what's worse? Walking away from a family that never saw you, or staying and dying slowly in plain sight? I chose to walk. And now they're walking through the cold I used to keep out. Let them feel it. Let them learn. Respect isn't given freely. It's paid for. And I'm done being the only one who pays. The email came on a Wednesday. Subject line, "I'm sorry." It was from Sky. She didn't overdo it. Didn't flood the page with excuses or pleasantries. Just 3 short paragraphs. Plain text. No emojis. You were right. I honestly didn't know how much you did. I thought things just happened. That things like gas and groceries and Wi-Fi just existed. But it was always you. I'm sorry for laughing. I didn't mean it like it sounded. But I know now that doesn't matter. It hurt you, and I made it worse by saying nothing. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know I get it now. I read it 3 times. Once for content, twice for tone. It wasn't manipulation. It wasn't groveling. It was awareness, late, yes, but genuine. I didn't reply. Not yet. The next week, Lucas showed up at my rented room. He didn't call ahead. Didn't ask to come inside. Just knocked on the door and stood there with his hands in his hoodie pocket like a teenager again. I acted like an entitled jerk, he said. No preamble. No smile. I get it now. You were carrying all of us while we pretended we were grown. I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at him. His shoes were dirty. He hadn't shaved. There was a dark mark under one eye. Not a bruise, but the shadow of too little sleep and too much pretending. He wasn't there for forgiveness. He was there because reality had stopped cushioning him. I nodded. That was all he got. All he deserved in that moment. But it was something. He didn't linger. Just nodded back and walked off down the street. No car. Just his feet on the pavement. That night, I pulled up the calendar app, the same one I used to sync with the family's routines. It was blank. Completely blank. No birthdays, no dinners, no bills. The absence felt cleaner than any fresh sheet I'd ever seen. But I opened it anyway, and I scheduled a dinner. Not in the old house. That place still held too many echoes. I invited them to a restaurant, neutral ground, middle-tier Italian, the kind of place with cloth napkins and just enough background noise to make things bearable. I didn't say why. Just sent a group text. Friday, 6:30. Dinner's on me. Not everything else. They showed up. All 3 of them. Emily wore makeup for the first time in weeks. Lucas looked like he'd borrowed a collared shirt. Sky wore her work uniform. Name tag and all. But tried to smile through the awkwardness. We didn't talk about the Thanksgiving dinner, or the comment, or the days that followed. We talked about work, about the weather, about nothing, and yet, somehow, that nothing said more than any apology could. After dinner, we stood outside by the cars. It was cold, but no one moved. Lucas shuffled over and handed me something. An envelope. Inside was a printed receipt from a pawn shop. It listed the drone I bought him for Christmas 3 years ago. He had sold it, not to punish himself, not to guilt me, just to live. Sky pulled out another envelope. Hers was thinner. Inside was a folded $150 in 20s and 10s. And a note. First payment toward what I owe you for that comment. I looked at her. She wasn't crying. She wasn't begging. Just watching, quiet and raw. I kept the money. Not for what it could buy, but because it meant she had started to understand value. Not dollars. Respect. Over the next month, I visited the house on weekends. I didn't bring groceries. I didn't fix the sink. I didn't mow the lawn. I showed up. Nothing more. Nothing less. Emily had gone back to work full-time. Dental assistant. Minimum wage and long hours. She never said she missed being home. She never asked me to come back. But the house had changed. It smelled like cheap candles and reheated leftovers. The fridge had less in it. The living room was cleaner. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. Just tired. Sky took over the bills. Lucas handled car maintenance. Emily made lists, actual lists printed and taped to the fridge, of what needed to be paid and when. They were building something. Not to impress me, just to survive. That's when I knew things were changing. Not because they needed me, but because they were learning not to assume I'd catch them when they fell. One Sunday evening, we had dinner at the house. Just a roast chicken and some steamed vegetables. No holiday, no performance. After the meal, Lucas poured me a coffee. Sky brought out another envelope. Another $150. And another note. Still paying you back. I looked at Emily. Her eyes flicked toward the envelope, then toward me. I didn't ask her to do that, she said. Quiet. Almost defensive. I know, I replied. She didn't smile. But she didn't look away. We sat in the living room after. No TV. No music. Just the sound of forks clinking in the kitchen sink as Lucas cleaned up. I noticed something on the wall. A photo. Not a posed one. Just a candid snapshot of the three of them, Emily, Lucas, and Sky, sitting on the back porch from years ago. There used to be more photos there. Ones I'd taken. Ones I'd paid to have framed. Now it was just that one. I asked Emily about it. "We're starting fresh," she said. That's when I realized. They weren't asking me to come back. They were building without me. Not out of anger. Not out of pride. Out of necessity. I stood to leave. Emily walked me to the door. Sky hugged me goodbye. Lucas didn't, but he nodded that same short nod he gave me the night he came to my apartment. It was enough. In the car, I sat with the envelope on the passenger seat. I didn't count the money again. I just stared at the handwriting. It wasn't neat. It wasn't practiced. But it was deliberate. Every letter carved like it cost her something. I drove back to my place, the one bedroom with a fridge that only held what I bought, a thermostat that stayed exactly where I left it, and a bed that never sighed when I came home late. I didn't miss the house. I missed what I thought it was. And that was the difference. Sky sent another email a week later. Just one line. "Will you come by next Sunday?" I replied, "Yes, but I'm not staying." She responded, "I know. I just want to make you coffee." And she did. She brewed it strong, poured it slow, set it down in front of me like it was something sacred. No words, no performance, just presence. That's what changed. Not their love, not their need, not their dependency, their presence. It had weight now, cost, effort. And mine was finally optional. I still live between two places, my apartment and the house, my space and their world. But now, when I walk into that house, they stop what they're doing. Not to bow, not to gush, but to notice. And that, after 9 years of being a shadow, is enough. We don't talk about the spreadsheet, or the utilities, or the night I left, but it lives between us. Not as shame, as memory. And memories are better teachers than lectures. Sky's still paying me back. Lucas still looks me in the eye when he speaks. Emily still flinches when silence stretches too long. But no one asks me for anything. And for the first time, that makes me want to give again. So I ask you, is that what respect looks like? When nothing is expected, and everything offered is earned. If so, maybe I finally became what I never claimed to be. Not a father, but something solid. I live between two places now. There's the house, the one I paid off over the years, where Emily still sleeps in the master bedroom, where the curtains I hung still block out the morning sun, where my name is still on the mailbox, but my presence is no longer default. And then there's the space I carved out for myself. A furnished rental. One bed, one coffee maker, a small desk by the window. Sparse, quiet, not lonely, just honest. I used to think leaving was an act of destruction. Now I know it was the only way to expose what was already broken. The house didn't fall apart after I left. It simply revealed what it had always been, dependent on a man they didn't see until he stepped out of the frame. I visit once a week now, Sunday evenings. Like clockwork. Sky usually cooks. Lucas does dishes. Emily makes sure there's fresh coffee. No one complains. No one jokes at my expense. The air is still. The table is set. The conversation is light, not because we're healed, but because we've accepted the cracks. We don't pretend to be a family anymore. We're something else now. A collection of people orbiting a memory. That memory? The night I walked out. Lucas said something last Sunday I won't forget. We were sitting on the back porch, watching the wind move through the trees. He took a sip of his drink and said, "I thought replaceable meant you weren't important. Turns out it meant we never stopped to see what you really did." He didn't say sorry again. He didn't need to. That sentence, flat, raw, uncoded, was enough. I nodded. He looked down, embarrassed. Then added, "I didn't know how much your silence weighed until I had to carry it. That's the thing about silence. People think it's absence. But it's not. It's consequence. And when it stretches long enough, it forces people to hear what they once drowned out." Sky still pays me back. Every envelope has $150. Every note is shorter than the last. The last one just said, Because you still show up. She doesn't know how close I came to disappearing completely, to cutting all ties, not out of vengeance but self-preservation. I don't say that out loud, but I think it, every time she hands me that envelope. As for Emily, we speak little. Her eyes are different now, quieter, no longer filled with whine and dismissal. I don't know if she regrets staying silent that night. I just know she never raised her voice to stop what happened. She didn't stop the comment. She didn't defend me. She didn't say, "Brian is the reason we have a home." She sat there, and I remember that more than I remember the words that came from Lucas's mouth. Because silence isn't neutral. It's complicity. So I keep my distance. I come for dinner. I leave before dessert. They ask sometimes if I want to stay longer, if I'd consider moving back in. I don't, because the old house is a monument now, a reminder, a structure that only stood because I held up the beams while they danced in the kitchen. They miss the man they never thanked. They feel the shape of what I used to be, now that I'm only partially there. And I won't be the ghost who wanders his own life, hoping for gratitude that never arrives. I made my peace with being seen too late. And now, I live in clarity. Lucas pays his own insurance. Sky handles her tuition. Emily works 6 days a week and budgets down to the dime. They're surviving, and that's good. Not because I wish them hardship, but because I needed them to understand that survival has weight. That comfort has a cost. And that respect isn't a handshake or a birthday card. It's how you act when no one's watching. Lucas once asked me, after a quiet dinner, "Do you think we could have avoided all this if we just said thank you?" I didn't answer, because the truth is, no, a thank you wouldn't have fixed it. This wasn't about gratitude. It was about erasure. And the only way to undo erasure is through effort, not apology. They're putting in the effort now, piece by piece, envelope by envelope, dish by dish, not for show, not for performance, for survival. And that's how I know they learned. Not because they wept, not because they begged, but because they built something in the wreckage with their own hands, not mine. And here's the last thing I'll say. To every man who's sat at a table invisible, to every stepfather who's paid bills in silence while being reminded he's not real family, to every provider mistaken for background noise, you're not crazy, you're not cruel, you're not wrong for drawing a line and refusing to be the ghost that funds everyone else's comfort. Sometimes the only way they'll hear you is by leaving the silence in your place. Because the absence of a man they refuse to acknowledge, that's the loudest sound in the world. So I ask you, was I wrong for walking out of a house that laughed at me while living off my labor? Or was it the only way they'd ever learn the price of peace? Let me know in the comments. And if this story hit something deep in you, share it. Because more men need to know. It's okay to stop bleeding quietly for a family that won't even hand you a bandage.